All right. Good evening. Now we are live. Good evening, everyone. With me is Graveskeeper Walt, all the way from America. And he's also known to write and direct a few things.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
Winging a prayer.
So there will be someone might have a question about this film you did.
All right.
As it's in most people's top 3, I think, of the Friday the 13th films.
I am so honored. I can't tell you. It's just amazing because obviously, when you make something, you don't know what's going to happen to it. But we were pretty sure this was going to play 1 week, maybe 2, and then be forgotten. It would never go on television, And for 36 years later, for me here to be talking to you all, you guys, it's just unbelievable. Not to mention how many movies Fridays followed, and now the fans making their own stuff, which is brand new cinema. You've never had anything like that in the history of film.
No, it's certainly got legs. But let's start with the first question. So it's a One Dark Night here. So that was your first writing and direction feature.
Correct. Yes.
Where'd you get the idea for that?
In the catacombs of Paris. I was a rock and roll. I guess you can't tell. I was in a rock and roll band. I still am in a rock and roll band. But in like '69, I decided that everybody was dying that I loved. I mean, we opened for the Doors. Morrison was gone. I loved the Who. Keith Moon was gone. I followed Hendrix like I was a religious zealot. He's gone. Janis. I mean. So the whole thing got kind of ugly, and then Charles Manson came to Los Angeles, big way. And so I kind of decided if I wanted to keep doing this rock and roll thing, I needed to come up with some sort of new persona, something that was more visual. I didn't know David Bowie was kind of doing the same thing, which was mime going into this thing. And that's exactly what I did. I went to Paris to study with Marcel Marceau and kind of came back and was on the streets of LA making a living. But while I was over there, the Gothic side of me went down into the catacombs. And in those days, it was just going down these stairs. You were given a little candle and you followed the group around. And I decided to break away from the group because I thought, I got to see what this is like being in, miles and miles of skulls and bones. And it was the first time I ever actually had a sense of supernatural fear. Where it's like, okay, there's nothing in here. What am I feeling? And that stuck. And that kind of is where, the One Dark Night came from. How could I do that here? And then I saw a mausoleum and I went, okay, wait a minute. There's all these beautiful, marble crypts. What's behind there? Well, rotting corpses. So that's the
there you go. Sounds so easy in hindsight. Because was it all filmed in a mausoleum or was it on sets?
There was one large set that was like one corridor with some, fall offs, but all the big stuff we did at what's now the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Those days it was just called the Hollywood Cemetery. So we could get those long corridors. And of course I was in love with that idea, like Alien, there's these long ship corridors, that just went on forever. And I was very fortunate to get, Meg Tilly at the very beginning of her career, who I thought, was just fabulous to work with. And, 3 years later, she was up for, an Oscar for Agnes of God. She just really took off. It was just great. Had nothing to do with One Dark Night, but I was blessed to have her.
Yeah, she's great, man. Then you went, as a director, you went straight to Jason. But
straight to means like 4 or 5 years of
in a list a line.
After I did the movie, it was strange because it was very hard to get it made purely because those were the heyday of the slasher movies. And if you had a knife and a guy with some sort of sack over his head, or didn't matter, just as long as you couldn't see his face and you had girls to kill, you could get a movie made. And I was doing pretty much old school Hammer, horror movies, which, I used to ditch school and go at noon, to watch the next Hammer movie or the Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe stuff. So that was in my blood. And the cutting up women wasn't so much, a pastime, nor was when we got into the torture porn. I went, to me, that's not horror. That's a whole other level. But you guys love it. What do I know? But it just, I couldn't get it off the ground until finally we found a bunch of Mormons, businessmen who needed to lose $1 million like that. I mean, like, can you start shooting in 3 weeks? I said, absolutely. I've got the whole thing planned out. And so, we ended up getting 800,000 instead of $1 million. But, we got the thing made and put it out there. And then I carried around those film cams for a few years before, I was approached by Paramount to do, The Next Friday. And I was very fortunate too, is that they were in a really tough position because 5 didn't work for the audience. They wanted Jason back, and Frank Mancuso Jr. just said to me, just figure out how to bring him back. I said, well, that's easy. What else? That's it. That's it. You get, whatever else you want to do. So, I came up obviously with the Tommy Jarvis thing, continuing him, but with a new actor who I just thought Tom Matthews was great when he came in to audition for me. I'd not seen, Return of the Living Dead or any of that, and just cast people that I thought were really likable and would make it fun and have a sense of humor about it. And as I said, I no idea, all these years later, we still be talking about it.
That's nice. Just before something else, Drama Rama, a UK TV series in 1987. It says is one of your acting credits.
Yeah.
I used to watch that program, but I didn't think it made it.
I think they took something from The Black Hole, from the movie The Black Hole that I was in, and put that in there, because every time I saw that, I was kind of going, when did I do that?
That's what I was thinking. I can't find any other reference.
Dropped LSD and kind of forgot. But yeah, I think that's what somebody told me when I was over in Manchester. Like a year ago or so. Some fan had sent all of this. They were like in love with Captain Star, and I don't know how many items I autographed, stuff I'd never seen before, and I think there was something there that gave me a clue that that's what that was.
Yeah, because that was my next question. The Black Hole.
Oh yes.
That was one of my favorites growing up. I still love it now. It's pretty.
That's great. I'll be honest with you. When we were making it, we were going, you know what? If Walt was around, he wouldn't be doing this. And the guy that was running the studios was Walt's son-in-law, and he was like an ex-football player, USC football player who married Walt's daughter, and he really didn't get this. He kind of inherited it, and it was this sort of, to us, okay, they passed on Star Wars. And it's like, oh shit, okay, we gotta do one of these space operas, and why not make it dark? And it had a lot of like really cool things, but I don't know, I guess they were really trying to get both audiences, little kids with the cute little robots, and then a more sci-fi follower crowd. And at the time, it didn't seem like it quite worked, but like anything else, it goes on to DVDs and now I guess you can probably see it on the Disney Channel or whatever, and it finds a new audience that just really, really likes it. And I go, hey, as long as people like something, it's good.
Yeah, because Maximilian used to scare the hell out of me with his blades cutting through people.
Yeah. He was great, and the Captain Star character, that wasn't in the script. That was Gary Nelson, the director, going, because I was hired basically to be like a choreographer, stunt coordinator for the humanoids and the robots. And suddenly I was like, okay, we're going to make this part for you to do, in this. So, which was, great fun.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a question, because we've got the monkey here. Can I ask you, did you write the line, I've seen enough horror movies to know that any weirdo in a mask is never friendly?
Oh, yes. I'll tell you a tale out of school. That's Nancy McLoughlin who says that line, and she was my wife at that time, and for a number of years later. And then it's the kind of the classic thing where everything started to change. Our kids grew up and left home, and I went back into rock and roll, and our relationship was so based on a lot of things besides having children. was movies, and I always found something for her to do. And I told her, I'm going to write a scene in here specifically for you because I know what your kind of humor is. I didn't realize I was going to get Tony Goldwyn, who went on obviously to Ghost and things, but that was like his first movie where he joined the Screen Actors Guild. And I just came up with some stuff. I said, and she kept going, I wanted to be one of the counselors. I said, I know you did, but look, this site has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and at the ending, people, and they always did it, don't leave home without it, when the credit card was floating, which was, the catchphrase for American Express in those days. And I think she appreciates it now because when they do a lot of these horror mazes and stuff at Halloween, they have like a Volkswagen and they have, Jason. And so it's become kind of an iconic, not only line, but that kind of whole sequence. So, everything in there I wrote. I mean, other than if I let actors improv, the core character when he's talking to the boys, I so loved his energy. I just said, just tell him a story. And he just did that, shot it. Like, okay, that's it. Move on. So.
Okay. So that means you wrote the Jason Voorhees card game.
The Pamela stuff.
Where they half tell you the rules and then she stops before finishing the Did you actually have an idea in mind, or did it just stop in the script and that was it? You could.
I thought you said the game, the Friday 13th.
Oh yeah, well the video, the card game in part 6.
I heard game and
the card game that they play in the cabin in part 6.
Yes. I don't know. I thought I would come up with something that sounded like she could just make it up, and there would have to be the queen, and obviously would make Jason, the. What did I make him? The Joker? No, what did I make him? I can't remember what I made him.
Jack? Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean,
but there are people that have finished the game for you and made different rules. But it sounds complicated.
If anybody watches it again, and now that things are like really look good. I mean, obviously digital things. If you watch when they're playing, right next to her is the David Bowie album Aladdin Sane, and that was movie title that we were using when we were shooting it.
Of course.
Kind of hiding. So, I thought, well, I got to have that right there for, just for the joke of Frank always name these movies some David Bowie title.
Yeah. That's good. And was that your copy of the album, or was it just one from the shop?
Wasn't mine, no. I still got mine in my record collection.
Ah, nice. So we've got 101. Jeff says, good evening. And his question is about the Bond spoof at the beginning. Was that your idea?
Yes. Again, it was me thinking when I took the job on, and it was one of those things I sort of had to be talked into because as I said, I didn't really want to do a slasher movie. But when they said I could do what I wanted, I thought, well, this is the 6th one. I got to have a sense of humor about this. I've been working for almost 3 years on Date with an Angel and was bouncing it off of Frank Capra, who's like my mentor. And people go, wait a minute, you love Frank Capra, yet you made this? And I go, well, if you look at the characters and look at the sense of humor, there's a lot of things that I got from those 30s and 40s movies, the wise guy banter and, the people that you kind of like because, they're feisty and, get into people's faces and stuff. So yeah, that influence was there. And the one thing I thought, okay, this is becoming its own franchise. And what's the other biggest one? Well, James Bond. And I had huge affinity for Bond because it was one of the first movies my dad took me to see, Dr. No. So I always, loved it. I kind of fell out after Roger Moore took over and things because I was a Sean Connery man all the way. But there was still that thing that I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have him walk across, in that thing and instead of shoot, slice. So that kind of sets the tone of what I was saying. Okay, don't take this too serious, kids. This is going to be fun, but I still wanted Jason to be scary. I still wanted him to do things that were completely unhuman. You can't twist somebody's head and pull it off or punch a heart out or whatever, as opposed to just slicing throats and, whatever, anybody could imitate.
Yeah, that's true. Because your mime work led you to be in another horror film, The Prophecy, as a bear.
That was all those early days of paying dues. I would take any movie, any role, if it meant I could be on a movie set, getting paid, for doing this, and watching how it's done. Spend days, following the sound department around, obviously the director, go into the editing rooms, learn as much as I could, not being able to do it hands on, but at least watch, the professionals do it. And then I audited classes at UCLA, USC, all these places. My dad was actually a USC film student, which is kind of where I got the whole bug of making movies, because that was what he wanted to do. So I kind of inherited his dreams. But Prophecy was one of those things where they were looking for, a mime, someone to get in a costume. I had to train for 3 months with these extender things to be able to run on all fours, with this 150 pounds of hydraulics and stuff for the mouth and things. It was a job. There's no two ways about it. I got an incredibly wonderful friendship with Kevin Peter Hall, who is just the sweetest man in the world. Obviously, you guys know, went on to Harry and the Hendersons and the Predator and things. And his passing just devastated me, because he's such a sweet man. And I actually did a short film with him, as Kevin, and it's kind of a relationship with he was like 7'4", I think, 7'2" or 7'4", and then my first ex-wife, she's like 5'2", and and it was just so funny to frame things and things with that. I think they're called star-crossed, like star-crossed lovers, or soulmate. They just did not fit, but somehow they worked. So he was such a great guy. But that was my best, story about that. And also every so often telling John Frankenheimer how I thought this would be a better shot, which you just not do. But I was 26 and just so badly wanted to, say things about what I thought would make for a better horror shot. And I hadn't made a movie, so, what did I know other than what I'd seen from movies?
Yeah. Nice. So apart from Jason Lives, you were up for Dream Master and April Fool's Day?
I was up. They sent me the script for April Fool's Day, which I really enjoyed because, it has a great sense of humor and things. And I told my agent, could I go in? They said, well, they already, got a director on that, but they're interested in you for Friday. And I said, okay, really? Okay. Now, again, I only saw the first one. I only saw, the original, which I still think is the best in terms of it had a mystery. She was so great, Pamela, the character of Pamela Voorhees, and of course the character, everybody, just to me, even though I know Sean Cunningham was just trying to rip off Halloween and the title and all the crap that's been going on with these guys, lawsuits and stuff, it was just absurd. It just to me had a kind of an interesting twist on, rather than being in neighborhoods like with Michael Myers, this was like in a camp and the isolation. But they never had kids, I mean, they are in that first one. You can, if you look, there's like one sleeping scene in the very beginning, when I guess Pamela kills the first two teenagers in that. But I wanted in mind, again, to bring children in, let everybody go, oh shit, they're not going to kill kids. And it's just another way to bring up the stakes, in the movie.
Yeah, certainly it worked. I remember I first watched it, I thought, oh, it's going 70s. Because like in Piranha, they kill off a load of kids in the pool scene, and nothing's safe once the kids are dead. But so with Date with an Angel, you did appear, and do you do the fire stunts? Because I know you come out of the confessional and you catch fire. Is that you, or is that someone else that takes over?
Me. And here's what would have been incredibly cool. Phoebe Cates was in the movie, and in those days she was dating Kevin Kline. And so Kevin was around on the set and stuff, greatest guy in the world. And of course, to me, one of the, best actors. I just adore that guy and his work. And I said to, Phoebe, do you think Kevin would do like an, what do you call it? Untitled.
Uncredited,
cameo. And she goes, ask him, so I did. And he goes, yeah, sure. Love to. And our schedule ended up getting pushed, and the church ended up being later. And he goes, I'm so sorry. I got to do this. I got to go to England, do this little movie. And, or I would. I love it. So he comes, we're still shooting. He comes back having shot A Fish Called Wanda, of which he was ended up being in, I guess he won the Oscar, or he was up for an Oscar, I think.
I think he won the Oscar for it.
But when he came back, it was like, yeah, it was fun. We had a good time, good laugh. And again, that's the kind of guy he is. I mean, that role was unbelievable, So when it got down to it, it was like, well, shit, I'll do it. It's like, we're not going to set you on fire. I go, yeah, look, trust me, I'm not going to burn up. I've done stunts before on all these movies, and
sure,
obviously had all kinds of stuff. And my father's a fire eater, for Christ's sake. So
there you go.
Around a lot of fire on a human. So yeah, that was my nerdy cameo.
Yeah, I didn't recognize you with the glasses and a hat.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like. So yeah, the Friday the 13th video game. You wrote was it the Pamela tapes?
The Pamela tapes. Yeah. That was wonderful because it, as you know, I wanted to introduce Jason's father at the end of Jason Lives, and it's not that they didn't love the idea; they were just afraid that after the end of Part 5, when it was like Tommy looking like he was going to be the next Jason, and that it wasn't really Jason, that was killing in Part 5. Frank just said, I just don't want the audience to think that the next one's going to be about Jason and my dad. And, I don't see how that, and it's like, just do me this favor, save that, down the line, we'll talk.
Okay.
So that was the only thing I had to take out. So when I got this job to do, the Pamela tapes, I thought, I'm going to put in something that I've always wanted to put in with this, which is Jason's father, the Elias Voorhees, is somebody put the name Elias in there. I was just calling him Mr. Voorhees in mind. He was married to Pamela, but that child in Pamela was not from Elias. That was from somebody else. And Pamela tells the story on the tape about this man who basically raped her, and his eyes and the way he looked at me. So I really wanted to create that whoever his father was, there was something pure evil, in this person, which kind of, it's always the good excuse for why Jason can do a lot of the things he's able to do that no one else can do. But, the strange thing, I did the tapes and stuff. And of course, it was all supposed to be one continuous thing, and they kind of broke them up into little things that you found. But my biggest frustration is they didn't fly me up to direct it. And I thought the actress who did Pamela's voice was incredible, but the other guys, they were like right up against a microphone. It didn't, I wrote it as it's supposed to be a shitty little microphone on an old
the reel to reel
tape, and you hear crickets outside. I mean, so it was like a radio play that you were hearing. And this was like kind of like a secret tape that they found in the old police department. But it ended up sounded like something that was kind of recorded in a studio, and it was just, too kind of static. And so when I heard that, I went, it could have had so much more atmosphere and things to it. But, a lot of people love the information. A lot of people love this woman has, that voice down, so well of her that it's, that was a great bonus.
Yeah, sometimes because she talks at the beginning and at the end when you're playing as Jason. I mean, it's very similar to the Betsy.
Yeah, and then even when we were making it, I kept saying, "Isn't anybody from Paramount stopping you guys from doing this?" Because I mean, I go, "No, they're fine with it," And I thought, wait till they make a lot of money,
Yeah.
As soon as there's a lot of coin, that's when everybody sort of goes, "Oh, wait a minute, I think I need to sue," or I need to get deceased. And then the same time was with the whole meltdown between Sean and Victor Miller, their lawsuit. So because they had a movie in production, they were ready to go, and I believe they were going to shoot at the camp that I shot at in Georgia for that one, and then that just, ended up getting shelved.
Yeah, it's a shame. So the real Fifth Beatle is what are your memories of C.J. Graham? Because you worked with him in the fan films Vengeance, didn't you?
Yes, I did. What about my memory? My memory of CJ Graham was like last night we were on another podcast together. I got to tell you guys, we had a stunt man, Dan Bradley, who played Jason in the daylight scenes that you see, like the paintball stuff. And Paramount saw the dailies and they went, no, he's too overweight and hunky, because I guess he started eating a lot more while he was down in Georgia, that Southern food. And, the costume was now not looking good on him. And so they said, well, we're going with your second choice. And the only reason, I even went with Dan is because they didn't want to pay for a stunt man, a stunt coordinator and the stunt man to be in the suit. So CJ was perfect, except, they would have to hire a stunt man. Well, that's what they ended up doing. Mike Nomad came. He's the blonde-haired cop that you see that gets the dart in his head. Yes. So he did the stunt coordinating, and then CJ was the guy. And CJ came out of the Army, and so anytime I asked him to do something, yes, sir, and he executed it exactly like what I wanted, like somebody who'd been electrified, and it's like Terminator. His moves are all sharp and things. He wasn't the loping kind of Jason that we'd seen previously. And then Kane Hodder took it after that and kind of added the breathing. Yeah. Again, another way to do it. But Jason and I have stayed, good friends over all these years. We're all of us. Darcy DeMoss, Tom Fridley, Nick and Tom Matthews. Not only do we see ourselves see each other at the conventions and things, but we also, are constantly texting, Instagram, Facebook friends. It's like a family that happened in the most bizarre way. And usually when you do films, it's like, yeah, we'll keep in touch. Sure. And never. But with this, we're all, and even some of the smallest parts, we're still in touch. The little kids that were under the bed saying, what were you doing? I just saw them again recently, growing up, one's a director, and it's just amazing that this movie kind of, held us all together.
Yeah. So we got hang on. Let's go back to that. He wants to tell you how much this movie means to us, and it's a huge part of so many of our childhoods. That is true. So thanks for that.
Yeah, this is the way I feel about Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman. As I was in front of that TV, those were like my heroes. That's what I drew. That's what I, aspired to. When we were making these guys in the 80s, we had no idea that, Michael Myers, Freddy, Pinhead, Chucky, Jason. All these were going to end up being the iconic monsters for you guys. And it's incredibly cool. But a lot of it is what I was saying before. We come into your houses, into your TV, it's like, is mom asleep? Yeah. Okay. And your friends come through the window, and there's so many kids that come up to me who are now adults, but you get that face of their, like, we stuck this in and we watched this over and over, and they know all the dialogue, and, guys go, take a look at this, look at Jason here, your movie, right? And they've got like a, literally like an image from the film tattooed. And I said, you're taking that to the grave with you. You realize forever. Because that's okay. I love this movie. So it's just incredible, because it kind of came, I think, for a generation at a time when it was so easy to get it and see it. And it just sort of connected. And I don't know if part of it was because there was little kids in it that people, if you were young, you sort of identified with that. I remember when I saw The Son of Frankenstein, that there was a little boy that was, Basil Rathbone's son. I remember that fascinated me, that, he took Frankenstein's hand and walked with him. And I went, I'd love to do that. It's interesting how you bond with these things. But we're a group, all of us that love this stuff, that we see each other and it's like, one of us. There's just this war. Love the fans, and they love the material and stuff, and I think it's great that it still makes people happy and gets them excited about making these things. And it's, I don't know if some of these low budget ones have gotten over to you guys yet, like the Smile, that I don't know if that's been released over there now, or Barbarian.
No, Barbarian hasn't. No. For some reason, they're waiting until late October or November for them here.
And then there's one called Pearl that just came out, which is kind of the prequel. But all of these things are done. Well, Ty West isn't a new one, but these other guys are like first-time filmmakers. And you've seen it with an audience again, and people are jumping and really enjoying it. And they make these for low budgets. And, tonight is, the beginning of Halloween. Halloween ends, beginning and end. And, I'm going in with great reservations. I mean, I saw the original in a theater first night, and people just went crazy in the theater. And ever since that, it's like you keep going and keep hoping, that it's going to happen again. And it gets harder and harder because these things are not made, by John Carpenter like they, kind of were originally. And it's a committee of people. And even the director is not 100%, in charge. There's so many, factors that come in. So lots of times it doesn't quite have that simplicity that to me really makes a good horror movie, and somebody that has a vision and they are able to stay with it, which is why I think, Smile works so well, and Barbarians and Pearl and things. It's there's a simpleness there. But when it starts to get too soap opera, too much going on and things, it kind of just takes away for me, that fear factor, that kind of claustrophobic, you're stuck in this world and you can't get out. And the villain has, basically one agenda, and it's very frightening if you're in his radar.
I think mobile phones are a big issue for slasher films these days, aren't they? I think so. They sort out so many problems.
We saw a screening of Vengeance 2 5 days ago or so in Seattle. They rented a big theater. I love theaters, and this was like built in 1901. So I was in having just been in that theater and seeing it with an audience, and I had not seen it. I didn't know about the surprise cameos that were going to be in there, and so it was great to see the audience's reaction to that. But I'm watching this thing going, I lost count how many bodies. And I think later Jason Brooks told me it was like something like 47.
It's a big count, isn't it?
It's like, dropping a bomb on a country or something, that many deaths. And I mean, most of them, were fairly gory.
Yeah, they were.
Little nasty thing happens to me along the way from just pissing off CJ Graham, who's Jason's father in it. But it was wonderful to see something that was made so cheaply, but by fans. I mean, fans who love these things made them, and the fans who put in money, supported it, and they all get their names on this stuff. And it's amazing. It's really a new kind of cinema that, thank God, George Lucas was fine that people made these things in tribute to Star Wars or whatever. It doesn't make a big thing. When they finally settled this thing with the Friday the 13th lawsuit, I don't know if they're going to cease and desist on those things, or if they're going to allow them to go, because they can't make money. I mean, that's the whole point of it. Whatever they get, they have to spend it, and if they don't spend it, it goes to a children's hospital or some decent place. So it's not about a money grab. It's just about trying to please the fans, and for them, it's a great spotlight for as filmmakers, a chance to show what they can do.
Certainly, because it's been 13 years since the last Jason film, isn't it?
I can't believe it. Yeah,
I know. I've missed out on so much.
Scripts.
I bet.
Scripts I want to do, and there's like nothing I can really, do about it till all this settles. One is for the Victor Miller camp because it deals with young Pamela and young Jason, and the other is like a sequel to my Jason Lives 13 years later in at Crystal Lake, except it's in the winter and it's snowed, and they are literally like you cannot get out. They're stuck, in that. So Jason in the snow, obviously, blood looks real good in snow, but more than that, he has this time a different agenda that ties into my Jason Lives. There's a little piece of story in there that I kind of set up in the event that one day there might be something, so I get to pay that off. But
that'd be cool.
No idea if I'll get it, get this made or not. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Speaking of Freddy, because there was a theory out there that Freddy Krueger was the camp counselor at Crystal Lake that sired Jason. Or I've heard that before somewhere, but he's evil enough. But
I go out and write that script, dude. That's no. I don't know anything about that one. So fresh territory.
It's one of those on the internet ones. Let's have a look. Oh yeah. So we got JT, who is horror YouTuber of the month at the moment. Yeah, so Daylight Jason is Fat Jason. I say he's more padded than fat. He looks.
Yeah. He was just a big boy. He was just a big boy, and they couldn't. We were down in Georgia, and you were sort of limited in how many of those green shirts and pants you could just get off the rack somewhere. And the costumer, who was also Frank's sister, Frank Mancuso's sister, doing the costume, she did her best, but at a certain point, it's really kind of hard, to hide things. And, he lumbered, which there's nothing wrong with, because a lot of the other Jasons had that. And, I was okay with it. It wasn't exactly the way I sort of saw it, but lots of times you make these compromises and they end up working out fine. But yeah, I mean, I had no involvement in that. Suddenly it's like, oh, well, we got rid of, him and we're bringing in this guy. What? And they did it over a weekend so that we were, able to kind of, fly one out and fly the other one in. And still to this day, I've not seen Dan Bradley, but I have absolutely no concern that he's that pissed off about it anymore, because he does all the second unit for all the Bond movies, for all the what's with the Born Identity, all those big crazy sequences with the cars flying and do all the shit. That's all Dan Bradley. So he's incredibly successful as a director.
Yeah, I never linked it to that Dan Bradley stuntman. Turned out to be that. Yeah, that's done. Yeah, he's done a lot of great stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, the other thing I noticed you did Freddy's Nightmares, an episode of that.
Which one?
Apparently, Freddy's Nightmares, the TV show. It's a Miserable Life.
Yeah, that was a wild thing. They came up with this idea that they're going to do an hour-long show, but it's going to be like 2 half-hour stories that sort of dovetail together, so that one story can end, but you've introduced a character that's going to be in the next story, so that you can run them as one complete thing. Or they were thinking for syndication, when they go out, for other markets and stuff, that they could be half hours too, so they could get twice as much out of this. So all the stories had to be somehow designed that way. And when I came in, McGarris again was the person that helped open that door for me. He's been incredible on my career and getting me in a episode of The Others, which was a short-lived series that Steven Spielberg was the producer on. Came out the same time Freaks and Geeks came out, which was also a really fun series. And the NBC, deep sixed both of those, just somehow, I don't know, they just didn't feel it worked, or it's getting the audience they wanted. But the Freddy's Nightmare thing, we were shooting on 16 millimeter. It was, really on the cheap. I basically had a script for the first half, and the second half was sort of like ideas. And so we got in there, and like a lot of that stuff, there was a surgery scene, and I was improvising stuff and coming up with these surreal ideas for corridors with wind in the hospital and an old man and stuff blowing through, that's staring at her. I just wanted to make it, just creepy and weird, which I managed to get away with, because really there was no one saying, no, you can't do that. It's like, or, you're not doing what's in the script. It's like, what script? So there was, it was great fun. And, Lars Park Lincoln was the lead girl in both of those, and she was, incredible. And we've remained friends over all these years too. See her at all the conventions, and of course she was in, Part 7, as Tina. So all these things that it's like you make these family members, out of horror movies. It's a great thing.
Yeah, because JT says you can see your love of Frankenstein throughout Part 6.
Yeah.
If you'd have got Dream Master, would you have got Freddy back a different way rather than a dog urinating fire on his bones?
Well, it's interesting, because when I finished the Friday, Frank immediately said, let's do another one. And I go, cool. I don't know what to do, Frank. And he goes, "Oh, come on, you can come up with something." I said, "You know what? I put into this movie everything I could think of in terms of car chase, underwater, fight, kids, all this stuff, the sense of humor. I don't want to repeat myself. I'd have to come up with something else." And he said, "How about Jason versus Freddy?" And of course, the first thing in my mind was Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Okay. To me, they exist in two different realms. But how are you going to get them anyway? They're with New Line and this is Paramount.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm working on it." So he comes back a week later and says, "No, they won't do it." And I go, "Okay. Got any other ideas?" And it kind of off the top of my head, I went, "Well, wait a minute. Cheech and Chong are here at Paramount. Why don't they meet Jason?" And he goes, "I don't think it's the same audience." I said, "Yeah, it is. Are you kidding? Everybody drinks the same beer, smokes the same weed. If you love horror, you usually love Cheech and Chong too." And he goes, "Yeah, but the horror people aren't going to be upset with the comedy things." I said, "No, I think it's Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. You make the Jason stuff great as it was in Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. The monsters are all wonderful, and yet you have these two guys who are either counselors or out camping or whatever, and it's like, hey, that could be Jason, man. Nah. And all that kind of stuff to me could be, great fun, but it was like, nope.
Yeah.
I spent 32 years with people saying, what are you gonna do? And finally, after that amount of time, I finally came up with a couple ideas that all kind of became this, Jason Never Dies script that I wrote like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Freddy thing, when I finished, they offered me part 4 of Freddy's Nightmare. So I went in to talk about it, and I said, this could be fun. Yeah, I love Freddy. I think this would be great. And I said, "When do you start?" "Oh, we're already shooting." "Oh yeah, no, we have like 2 units doing the effects and doing this." And I went, "You're doing this without a director?" It's like, "Yeah, we know what we're doing." And there's that part of me, that like, if you take something on, you provide the sperm, the baby, and you go, and the fact that it's already being put together and you're going to have to sort of use whatever somebody else comes up with, and is it all going to tie together with the script and things? And I basically said, no, I just kind of needed to be in charge. Do I regret that? Because, what's his name came in there? Rennie Harlan.
Yeah.
And 4 was the one that, because of all the VHSs that everybody had seen, went, through the roof. And, he went on to do Die Hard and things, and, ended up doing TV movies. But it's again, you don't know, you figure, if you're going to do something, you want to do it right, and you want to feel that, you somehow are overseeing it, helming the ship. So, like that, the same thing with CSI, that series, I turned down the pilot because I had done a series with ABC called Leaving LA, which was all about the coroner's office. And we had Chris Maloney, we had Hilary Swank, great actors. And ABC went, yeah, American public doesn't really like, dead stuff, And so they canceled the show. So when CSI came along, I went, wait a minute, this is going to follow Angela Lansbury and Murder, She Wrote. I think, is that crowd going to stick around to see a thing? No, I don't think so. And of course, it took off. My daughter is now working on CSI Las Vegas and wardrobe.
Okay.
After all these years, the shows keeps going on and branching out into other things. Amazing.
Yeah, it's all over the world now, isn't it? Is Hawaii, is it? Or is that, I confuse it with NCIS and all of them. Yes, that's true. Yeah, Adam West, Matthew Binney is in Australia. So he's up late or early. So yes, Adam West, of course.
Well, the rebellious actor part of me, when the casting person said, "Oh, what about Adam West for this role?" And I went, "Batman?" As anybody would. And he go, "Yeah." I said, "Why would he do this?" And he go, "Well, the truth is nobody wants to hire him because he's Batman and he sounds like Batman." And I went, "No, he's a good actor. That he knew comedy. He was great. Let's hire him." So of course, what I found out when I got on the set was the first day he comes up to me and says, "Tom, I was thinking of starting the line up here and then kind of having it go down. I do things with my voice to make the line more interesting." And I went, Adam, that's Batman. You know, so almost every take I had to go and remind him, yeah. Okay, I know. I'm sorry. Yeah. And I mean, really nice guy. He understood what I was trying to do because I just needed to kind of flatten him so he was the sort of the, you know, asshole husband of the woman that we wanted to see go in there and battle, you know, Raymar. And it was all great. But then when we finished the movie and it qualified for these guys' tax shelters, they shut down the company. Somebody else took it over. They saw our cut and went, you know, we're going to fix this now. What do you mean fix it? And they had the power of the rights of that thing. So they ended up they kind of changed my opening because it used to open with the coroner's wagons, which I thought was very cool and stuff. And that ended up, you know, moving down. And they added this, you know, a couple scenes with Adam and talking, and they looped him and they didn't correct his speaking. In One Dark Night, you do hear, yes, Olivia, what are you talking about? You know, you get your Batman guys, you know, you get
it. Yeah, well, I watched it the other night. I didn't pick up that. Oh yeah, that's Batman. So I guess there's been so many Batman since because he was the only one back then, wasn't he?
I mean, and I really loved the last thing, the Batman. I just thought he did an amazing job kind of reinventing that yet again. But the rage, you know, in the character and the fact that he was younger and he, you know, if he was going to beat on somebody, he beat him to death. I mean, there was so much anger. And coming out of COVID and all of this stuff, it just seemed to reflect what we were all kind of feeling. And seeing it in the movie theater with people, it was just great. I mean, I didn't expect to like it, especially at 3 hours, but boy, I was back the next day, you know, IMAX, you know, ultrasound, you know, Dolby, you know, and I just loved just being back in the theater and getting, you know, overwhelmed with it visually. It was,
that soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, JT's back. So yeah, your movie and all the other Fridays. He saw when he was around 6. He's never left horror since. But yeah, I was the opposite. I was a late bloomer to horror because I saw, what was it, like stuff like Salem's Lot on telly and Alien and American Werewolf in London when I was too young and get me out for a while.
Yeah, that's still one of my favorites. You know, American Werewolf in London. It was because John kind of jumped into what we all adored, which is, you know, English horror and the wars, and, you know, taking two kind of, you know, crazy guys that you like, very likable, very humorous, and they get involved with this. And of course, they're strangers in a strange land, which always helps, you know, the story aspect. And, you know, so many great character actors. I actually shot Henry James's Turn of the Screw in England and got to, you know, this incredible manor house that we shot in. And I got to pick all those, a lot of them from the old Hammer movies as characters, you know, in it. And I was just in hog heaven. And it was, you know, the thing that was tough, you know, and I had Diana Rigg, you know, Dame Diana Rigg, playing the housekeeper. And it was just amazing, you know, to work with her and just the caliber of actors that would come in. It's like, they're great. Let's see what's that. They're great. Shit, you know, because, and if you notice, I mean, all these big movies that we have over here in the States, they're all British or Australian actors. And you don't know it because they got the accents, you know, down to a T, and they're crafted. You know, they've gone and they've learned their craft and they've done things. And when I used to go on the London walks and things, the Ghost walks, the Jack the Ripper walks, whatever, it was always like a great actor that told the stories. And it just made the experience so much better. And you go and, you know, I went to something recently in Salem, Massachusetts, you know, with all the witch things. And this is the place where, anyway, she was killed and, you know, England, you know, you guys know how to tell a story and pull in the audience, and the actors are so crafted. And American Werewolf, you know, had all those elements, and then that whole thing, you know, happening in Piccadilly Circus at the end.
I know. He definitely couldn't do that now. Well, Tom Cruise could get that done, but yeah, no one else could do it now. But yeah, this crashing buses and everything in the middle of, yeah.
Yeah. There's one shot too. You see John go through a plate glass window. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know that.
But yeah, Mike says you look incredible for 72, and you're still rocking with your band, aren't you?
I'm still rocking. Yeah, I've had a band for 10 years now, which was the band I was part of in the mid '60s. And another piece of trivia, maybe some of you guys know this or not, that I had Alice Cooper do the music, for The Man Behind the Mask.
Yeah.
Alice and I knew each other in 1965, 66. He was Vincent, and he was in a band called the Naz, and we hung out at Frank Zappa's house, and we played a lot of these bills. And he was a great guy from Texas, and we weren't close buddies, but we'd see each other obviously backstage and stuff.
Sure.
And then all these years later, I heard about Alice Cooper. He was doing the kind of stuff I was doing on stage in the '60s, blowing up stuff, setting things on fire, diving into the audience and stuff. And I went, "That's Vincent? Oh my God, I had no idea." Behind the makeup and stuff. So all these years later, when they asked me, because I scored the movie with stuff we couldn't have, AC/DC and Megadeth and all these, hard rock things. But I also had Alice in there, and they said, "Hey, would you like a song from Alice?" Like, "Are you kidding?" And so, we got this one, and then I heard Teenage Frankenstein and Hard Rock Summer. It's like, could we possibly get those two? And it's like, yeah. So great. But after all these years, the last time I saw Alice in person was 1966. We just keep missing each other, these things. And on stage, I sing Man Behind the Mask, and I purposely go and with your baby, and go that voice. And some fan said, "No, I told Alice that you do that." And he goes, "Yeah, we ought to, one day do it together someplace." And I'm going, "Please, God. That's that bucket list, number one item, get a chance to song with him." But yeah, I just started another band, or not started, I actually aborted what I was going to do because somebody else was already doing it. And it's basically, we're doing these, the songs that we actually grew up performing on stage on the Sunset Strip in the mid '60s. So, early Stones, early Beatles, all those songs. And the band's called Mojo 66. And we're just like saying, we're just going to be true to these things because it was such an incredible year, for music. And just, I go, God, that was in '66 too. Some of them are just, timeless classics. Others like, oh yeah, I think I heard that my dad played that or something. Right. And we learned this with the Sloths too. We started playing in the ghetto for, very tough, like gang, Latinos. And we started playing these songs that we did in the mid '60s, and they were dancing, they were going crazy. It's like, yeah, my grandpa had that song. I like it. Fine. And they treated us like we were the Stones. I mean, cool. I put my hand out, they all grab it. I mean, it was like the new Elvis movie, where it's like, oh my God, look at that. And, for a bunch of us old farts, I mean, it was pretty amazing to actually feel that power. So it did kind of bond us and kind of, keep us going. And then COVID kind of, stopped everything, killed the tour, killed the second album. We have like half of it. But one of the songs that was going to be on the second album is actually in Vengeance. And so that scene where it introduces me and the Arthur character that Rob Mello played, and he's amazing. That's also the guy that's behind the mask in Happy Death Day. It's Rob. And we just improvised that stuff. And the music you hear on the background, Never Too Young to Die, that's me singing, and that's the Sloths playing. So I'm performing to the song that I'm singing in the background,
Yeah, I thought I saw some Sloths t-shirts as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, the whole crew, everybody kind of loves the band. And, it was sad to kind of see it sort of fall apart. But I keep going, it's like I keep saying, this is like a death-defying thing. It's like I'm gonna keep rock till I drop. I bought a crypt. I guess it was 10 years ago, in the mausoleum where I shot One Dark Night, and it's got plaque with instructions, and the top of on the plaque says, "To die must be an awfully big adventure, Peter Pan," because I always that quote, from Jamberry. And then it's got my birth date, blank for the death date. In my mind, it's 2050 because I want to get to the 100 mark. If God has different plans or not, the bus hits me. I don't know, but that's my plan. And I've got a lot of stuff I'd like to do between now and then. So it's like,
Sure.
be as healthy as I can, and keep rocking and keep working towards making another movie again. And I teach also at Chapman University, so it's great to see these young up and coming filmmakers and watch some of them really take off. Pretty much the guy who wrote and directed Smile, Parker Finn, he was a Chapman Dodge student 10 years ago. And so I didn't actually teach him, but he was in the same class as my son was, screenwriting. And so for the school, it's like, finally, one of the boys, actually made it. And I think we broke 100 million mark between the Europe market and, the LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie's number one again, second week here. So it's a great thing to see that. But it's not so much what he learned in school. He got all the basics, which is what happened. It's you get out there and for 10 years you do shitty jobs, you work as somebody's assistant, you do whatever. I mean, this is what we all had to do. And then finally, when you get the opportunity, it's like you really earned it. Nobody handed it to you. You spent the time and bloodshed and ate TV dinners and life. But I love those success stories, and I love each generation that comes along and says, okay, we're going to take from this and take from that. And I said, no, don't take, steal. Great games, great everything. I mean, music, everything. You looked up to your mentor, and you took Mozart or Beethoven or Van Gogh, whatever, and you made it yours, in time. But you first have to know what is it that works, that makes that work and make it exciting. And, so many times I say to a student, take that shot from Kubrick, take that, way he composed it. You're in an apartment. It's not going to look like The Overlook, but it's going to have that same weird composition with I said, that's what you have to steal. And it is, as they say, artists steal and, hacks borrow. So I try to bring them. It's not a bad word.
Did Brian De Palma all right, didn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there we go. How did you enjoy working on the Stephen King adaptation? Sometimes they come back with the producer, Dino De Laurentiis.
Oh, wow. That's... Well, in the book that Joe Maudry did on me, Strange Idea of Entertainment, which I guess you can get on Amazon, English Amazon. There's a whole huge chapter on it because that had so many things going on, and to try to push it down into a quick explanation, I was in a really strange period of my life. My father was dying. My daughter was being born. Mick Garris and I had She-Wolf from London. So we were going over to London to get that show set up. I had another show. They came from outer space, comic guys. So we had basically, 20 episodes of each one that we had to get, writers and directors on. My friend Stephen Banks had a show, a stage show called Stephen Banks Home Entertainment that had become a huge hit in San Francisco. And I was directing a 5-camera video version of that for Disney and Showtime. And I was prepping Sometimes They Come Back. And we had a script that didn't quite work. It didn't, to me, have enough family and things in it. And Dino agreed. And so, we needed to rewrite that. And slowly, these things started to kind of get taken care of. And, my daughter was born while I was shooting the comedy thing. My father passed away, so Disney wouldn't let me have the day off, but I could go to the funeral and come back and direct in front of a live audience, the show. Yeah. And the next day I was on a plane to Kansas where we shot that. So I was in a really strange state of mind, but I was, you somehow operate from this other place when all these emotional things are happening. And the movie was cursed. Every day something happened that either somebody got hurt in the tunnel, there's a scene where he's on the ground, and just as he moved up, this boulder drops from the top of the tunnel right where his head was. I mean, we're talking like 10 seconds or less, that could have been major disaster. Brooke Brooke Adams twisted her ankle. She couldn't work for a few days. Transportation department quit. All the equipment was at one location. This is supposed to have been shot, I think, in 27, 28 days, and we were like 36, which is unheard of. But Dino was one of those great Italian producer types, and the producer on the set, said, Dino wants to talk to you, and I go, yeah, hi, Dino, I know what you're saying. Tom, you giving me a goddamn good picture? I said, yes, sir, I am. Good. Put him back on the phone. So he let it fly. And when we were doing the score with Terry Palmieri, and we kind of discovered this theme that we wanted, and when the whole thing came together, it really, I don't know, it has more heart, I think, than anything else. When my son saw it years later, he cried because he said, Tim Matheson is you in there. That's, and you see Tim and I, we have the same haircut. That wasn't intended. I mean, it just came out, and just the whole sense of family and caring about your brother and things that were all part of that story all kind of held it like glue together. And we had to shoot it, for TV.
Yeah.
And Dino was releasing it widescreen, like in CinemaScope. So we asked all to frame for that, which was maddening. Figure out both things. But at the end of the day, for a lot of people, it just really had a great effect, and was only seen on the screen in Europe. And then, of course, I figured, I would be smart and just say to Dino, because Date with an Angel didn't work. He said, well, we can make a deal to do sequels, or I can pay you double for this one. I said, pay me double. Went on to do 2 more sequels. So who knew?
There's big gaps, but yeah.
I'm not great in the business way, guys. Get yourself business managers or something.
But yeah, that was that's what I saw on VHS. Did you meet King or get any?
Unfortunately,
notes or anything?
His quote was, it was one of the few movies where he felt like it had elements of all the best of King. The car from Christina, the relationship with the guys like Stand By Me. There was all these little things that were in the script. Nothing that I put on. I think a lot of them were already in the script that we got. But it did, because it's a small little story, and then the original, the wife dies. She's killed by the and of course that wasn't going to fly for CBS. And it's a very cool little story. But it was made more into, I guess, family friendly in a lot of ways. But to me, there still was a darkness, and I tried in the soundtrack have these very weird sounds and noises. So there was this thing that was kind of underlaying all this, that was combination of screams and glass breaking and these weird animals played backwards. So it had this, very icky sound, which in a big theater is great, or if you have a great sound system, it really sounds terrific.
So yeah, I just found your book on Amazon. I put a link in the chat there so people can check that out. So JT wants to know, where can we check out your music?
Well, the easiest thing is YouTube. Just put, Tommy McLoughlin in there, or The Sloss. I guess you have to write The Sloss Band, because if you just write Sloss, you're going to get all these cute little furry creatures with 3 toes.
Of course.
But it's most of it's all there. We have 3, I think, music videos. One we did the song called Haunted, and it was for the Amityville murders, like the prequel. The kid that actually started the whole thing, shooting his parents and siblings. And I thought they did a really, really good job with that. So we have, Haunted in there, and then we did a music video of it. And One Way Out, which was all done by students at my school, and they, directing, producing, everything. They just took the band, and I said, we're walking, talking props, boys. Just tell us where you want us. We'll play. So that I thought came out very well. Very, very 80s music video style. And there's, awesome. There's a lot of stuff in there. And then I think the site, thesloss.org, O-R-G, sloss.org, has a lot of photos, stuff from, scenes from shots and ads and whatever from past gigs and stuff. So
okay. Cool. So Nick Coolan's here. He's a huge fan of Jason Lives. It's his favorite Friday the 13th movie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know most people flip-flop between 4 and 6, but yeah, usually on the same level.
4 is my favorite in terms of like the sequels. You know, when I got, because as I said earlier, I didn't see them, so I started with the first. They gave me a screening room at Paramount, and I sat there for all those hours and watched 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and making notes, going, is there anything that I can get in terms of a storyline? The mythology that I can kind of weave into this. So I always look at these things like, say you never saw one of these, could you just start watching it and get it? Or do you have to have information from previous ones? And I thought, let me just do that old rule, set up the rules, set up what the background is, and kind of go from there. It's been incredible writing this diary of Pamela Voorhees that I've been working with this writer-director, James Sweet, who did a fan film called Jason Rising.
Yes.
Available out there. And, he had thrown the idea to me about seeing Jason being born. And then we started talking and I went away, my head exploded. And I went, wait a minute, this is like a mother and son story set in 1940, where he's born 1946 to 1956, those 10 years of him growing up to being 10 when he goes to Camp Crystal Lake. Basically, that's where they're going. We know they're not going to get killed along the way because, if you're a fan, you know that. But if you never saw any of the Fridays, you never saw Halloween, you don't know a Jason mask from a, Myers mask, you still could watch this thing, because the heart of it for me was Pamela, getting somebody that is like the equivalent of Kathy Bates in Misery, Charlize Theron in Monster. She is, a sociopath, and slowly becoming a psychopath, but she writes in her diary. So we hear her thinking from the time she's this innocent 16-year-old girl that gets pregnant and now has no place to go. And she's got this child who obviously is very disfigured and, mentally challenged, and they're treated obviously like poor white trash. And they're going through middle America right after the war. And you think people would be happy that the war's over. No, we were scared to death in those years afterwards, because the Russians, we find out, have an A-bomb. They kept threatening that there was going to be, a nuclear war. Obviously, we had what was called the Cold War between them. That was very intense. And communism was a huge thing. So we had all these people that were being accused of being communists if they were strange, if they were unusual. So here comes this woman who's unwed, and everybody's getting very religious, because after the war, all the women who had these great jobs in the factories and stuff and could do the job just as good as men were like, nope, back in the kitchen, make the babies, he gets the job, So there's this whole unrest, and Pamela comes into all that, and she meets a woman who was actually, part of the in the camps at Auschwitz. And her son managed to get her out, and she's never seen anything like that. She grew up completely isolated, was an adopted child. So really given her an incredible backstory, as well as her incredible protection over her son. And if anybody says anything like, what is that? Guess where they go? And I wanted her to be what I mentioned before, like with Batman.
Yeah.
Her kills are passion kills, like O.J. Simpson on Nicole Simpson. I mean, it is over the top. When somebody's angry because their wife or their husband had done something they shouldn't, I mean, that it's not just kill them. It's violent. And she was doing that kind of stuff in the first, Friday the 13th. Yeah. So I thought, let's see how that happens and how it progresses. And guess who sits there and watches it the whole time? This boy, and then she loves him. I mean, genuinely loves him afterwards. And so there's this bonding that happens where we're in this together, and we're going to find some place where we belong, and then this world is evil and mean, and these are people. If we don't kill them, Jason, they're going to do this to other people, and that's wrong. That is really wrong. So she believes this, which, obviously sociopaths do. And I've done so many true crime movies over the years. I talked to these people on death row, people who were family around people who did things, the DC sniper, shooting all the people. You go, my God, it's like they can pass a lie detector test. Did you do this? Nope. Lie detector, the thing just sits there. It doesn't go, like you're lying. It's amazing. And they are far more frightening than Jason, Freddy, all the, fantasy
Well,
monsters.
that is true, yes.
Because they're right there among us. They
they're your neighbors.
Yeah. And if you have that sociopath personality, you can be so nice, but hit that button, it's over. So to me, it's been just wonderful developing this. And there's so much material now. We're going to try to see if we can get it like an extended movie, like on streaming. So there'll be 8 episodes, but it's all one big movie. And that's happening a lot now, as maybe you guys know. I mean, they're doing it with, obviously did it with The Haunting of Hill House. And I think they're doing Scanners. I think they're doing the David Cronenberg one.
Okay.
So many are now, because Netflix, all these people, they've got the money and they've got an audience, and
they do.
It's kind of where all of us have to sort of accept, well, we want it in the theater, but at least this gets it out to people.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So Jeff agrees. So that's a good idea. So a few others. Nick wants to see it as well. So at least everyone in the chat wants to see it as well. So maybe this time next year.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Victor Miller, who actually owns the rights to Pamela and to Jason, and he said, "Tom, I'm sorry, I can't listen to it. I can't hear it because we haven't settled this. My lawyer said, do not read anything, do not look at it. I guess it's in case, suddenly I later on go, oh, wait a minute, he stole my idea if they end up doing something like it. But now we're getting very, very close. So I've got a letter that I'm sending to him probably tomorrow. I'm going to take another shot at, because he's the only one really that can say yes, because he owns the rights. Sean has basically the mask, the hockey mask, Jason. So my Jason Never Dies, that would have to go, into his camp. So one or the other, I'm hoping will happen. But, just between me and you guys, the Pamela one is just so fascinating to see basically a female serial killer in, the mid 40s, early 50s that nobody paid a whole lot of attention to because there was so much else that was newsworthy. And she was going from town to town. So whatever happened to those, and with a weird little kid, So, and of course that was, from Crystal Lake on. But if you see this and then you see, if you've never seen the first Friday, it's a perfect, move from one to the other, as the story continues.
Yeah. Oh, the chicken shit outfit. That's a great name. so Jason Lives was his gateway to horror. I absolutely love the film. Fantastic directing, Tom.
Thank you.
Yes, I think we should all say that.
I hear that term a lot, like gateway drug. It's like, the one, and it's people on. A lot of people go, should I see one of these? And it's like, which one you want to see? Well, I would like to see, I don't know, part 5. No. See part 6 first. And if you like it, then start looking at the other ones. And part of that is, I guess, because I was trying to make a movie. I tried to go old rules that Tommy, our lead character, does something, he screws it up. He ends up bringing it back. And his agenda is he's got to get this guy back in the grave because he's killing everybody and it's his fault. So he's got a real motivation. Jason, like all the great monsters, Frankenstein said it, I think, in Bride of Frankenstein, love dead, hate living. And Dracula, to be dead, really dead, must be glorious. And Jason was happy down there. He didn't have to do this agenda anymore. Now this fucking kid, so he's got an agenda. He's going after Tommy, and anything in the way goes down. And every so often, he gets distracted, with a motorhome bouncing, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" So things, I could have other little things that happen, but really, it gets down to that big confrontation at the end. Come on, maggot head, come and get me. I'm the one you want. And that fight was what was the payoff of both of those agendas. So it has much more of kind of a classic story to it. It's just not a series of random kills.
Yeah.
And to me, that sort of like helps people, and the humor helps kind of take away the thing. And the little boy with the what were you going to be? Again, the joke that works for kids as well as adults.
Yeah.
Huge laugh for No Exit, seeing that on the little girls, falling asleep to No Exit. Stuff like that just kind of, I don't know, makes it a little more palatable, and people are, hopefully more likable, and people that, you want to not see die, so you do it like, oh, don't kill her. She was fun.
Yeah, because you just stop right on that little blonde girl, and then you think, oh, is this going to take a dark turn suddenly?
Yeah.
We got Jason from the J-Man's Movie Cave. Jason, this is one of my favorite horror films. I love the universal feel. So there you go.
Oh, I'm glad you picked up on that. Yeah, what I tell people too is, sometime if you have a copy of it, turn the color off. Just watch it in black and white. We purposely shot it so it's very, very contrasty, and some of the scenes, like, whoa, that looks just like an old, Universal horror movie. Not everything, of course, because we weren't had that kind of studio light like that. But a lot of things, that's kind of where I wanted it to go, which is exactly what Del Toro was doing with his Nightmare Alley. He wanted to shoot the whole thing in black and white. They said, okay, well, that's going to cost you an extra, or the budget, $3 million. And he went, never mind. But they shot it so that it looks great in black and white at the same time. And they were, shooting it in black and white and color. So there are two versions of that movie. And having seen both of them, I can't tell you what's better, because they both look incredible, but it feels so different when you've seen something in black and white.
Yeah. I'll give that a go. Because at the beginning, the opening shots are like this lake, and then the fog coming in, and that would look great in black and white. JT's got two more questions. What was the story between John Shepherd not returning to play Tommy? But whose decision was it?
I don't know exactly how to answer that, JT, because I've heard so many stories. When I started, it was basically kind of a given that John Shepherd was going to be Tommy. And then Frank came to me and it goes, it turns out this guy's, I don't know, it's like he's religious or something now, and he doesn't want to.
Yeah, that's the one I heard.
And then later on, I heard that, no, that's not true. He wanted more money and they didn't want to pay him. So it's more kind of classical, Hollywood reason. So I don't know exactly. I've seen a couple of interviews with him, and I don't think they ever really brought that up, at least none that I've seen. But I can't say that I don't wake up every day and go, I'm so glad Tom Matthews did this, because Tom, for me, had the range to be tough and macho, and like sort of innocent in the love thing, like, oh my God, this girl's coming on to me, and sincere. And he and Megan, Jennifer Cook, could have those wise ass lines go back and forth between them in that pacing that I wanted, because to me, like, you're attracted, but you still got to be a little bit of a smart ass, get in the car, hot lips, I'll drive, and again, these movies, guys, I'm just borrowing from or stealing from the best.
How many days did he?
I don't know if Shepherd would have been able to pull all that off. I really can't.
Because how many days did Tom have his head in someone's lap for shooting the car scenes?
I knew that was going to be a crowd pleaser.
This is going to turn hairy or something, isn't it?
Every so often I say, move out of the way. Let me show you how you do this. There's a great shot of me and Emmanuel Béart, who played Angel and Date with an Angel. I'm holding her face, and I'm like, our lips are like this far away. And I look at that picture going, oh boy, I would have loved, but when I wrote that, I was trying to find the ideal woman. And I thought, I'm going to write this movie about this incredible, most beautiful woman that you've seen, who doesn't speak because she's an angel. She has her own speaking stuff. And of course, couldn't get it made. And then E.T. comes and goes, and Splash comes and goes. And I finally get to do it. And of course, everybody uses those as, he just stole from those. but it takes a long time sometimes to get a movie made.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Trying to find this angel. I saw over 6,000 girls. Do you know, again, had the money, fly me to Paris, fly me to Rome, fly me to London.
All right.
All these incredible people that I saw for that part, but I was looking for somebody that just somehow had this ability with their eyes that communicated. And I saw a poster for Mano of the Source that was, Emmanuel's first movie, and it was the biggest movie over there. And then meanwhile, what's it called? How can I say it in France? Jason Delamorte. That poster was across the street. I thought, how a guy who made that going to go and get the biggest star, but I managed to do it. I talked her into it. So yeah, that anytime you can kind of, have those moments where it's a vicarious thing as a director, you want to be in there doing these things, but you have to kind of stand back and, sort of enjoy it, that you either wrote it or you're telling them exactly how to make the kiss work or whatever. It's a lot of fun.
Was she dubbed when she was in as the nurse?
No, was her English voice. No, there's a very, very thick French accent. Criticized on it a few times. Oh, she comes back as a French nurse. I mean, I don't know.
She can be whatever she wants, can't she?
Yeah. But that was a really interesting experience. That whole movie too, a whole other story.
Yeah. So yours is the only film without nudity. A Friday the 13th one.
Well, as the years have gone by, it's like, guys, come on, you want to see tits? Okay, here you go.
Hey.
So, what happened? Absolutely, in my script, she was topless, right. And when we got to the scene, Darcy, who is, she's not afraid of doing, nudity and all the rest of that, but she just said, I'm doing, and it was like Phoebe Cates with Fast Times. She goes, "There's no nudity in this for me, right?" I hated it. I did that in Fast Times,
Yeah, that's.
And Darcy said to me, "Do you really have to have her naked?" And I thought about it, and I went, as you say that, I think some of the comedy might get lost because, like any other guy, I'm going to be watching without seeing two balls. And I went, let's have Court be the sex item, and you be on top, and you're to the music. So we removed it, and I get one or two reactions. It's like, man, we wanted to see that, or thank you for doing one. Now somehow all of a sudden it's better, at least for American audiences. There wasn't any nudity in it. It was great, but I mean the profanity's all over the place. The court, obviously the kills, all that, but somehow,
yeah.
And it's just so different with the European mindset that's not a big deal. I mean, and actresses are much more open to it now than they used to be. But we have the Me Too generation, that's like, do not do anything that makes it look like a woman's being victimized or whatever. And I'm watching, Vengeance the other night going, boy, I hope these people see
They're not going to watch that one, are they?
It's all women. I mean, they've got guys, no question, but it's mainly, you're looking at these beautiful girls or just smart ass girls or whatever, no matter what happens, he's chopping them down. But there was no nudity other than, I don't know if you guys know Riggs, Joe Bob Briggs.
Oh yeah,
the drive-in guy. He's got this actress on that, and I can't remember her actual name, but they call her Darcy, the mail girl.
Yes.
And she's on an autopsy table, naked as daylight, all the scars and stuff because they decapitated her in the first one. So I thought, well, if you want to see them, there they are. Gray and blue guys, but there they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did get that in there.
Well, you get the dick in a jar as well, so there's something for everyone.
Yeah. All in that one great scene, yeah.
Yeah, because that's one thing we hear about is the MPAA and the Friday the 13th films of the 80s, especially. Mm-hmm. Did you?
Yeah, I went in being told, look, they're going to kill you. I mean, no matter what, they hate these movies. They want them to go away. Yeah. People like Roger Ebert and Cisco. I mean, they didn't even watch mine. They spent 10 minutes putting it down, and then they went, you know what? we didn't even watch it because
Oh,
I saw the trailer that they sent. It's the same junk. You want junk, go eat some cotton candy. So the attitude was pretty bad, about
yeah.
all at that time. So I shot things in a way so that I did an X version and an R version. Didn't quite get to, PG or G, but I hovered around in there, and they made us do 9 screenings, and
Oh,
and so we were just like cutting frames off. So I never lost any complete kill. All of those are in
yeah.
there. But there were some things that you guys missed that were really kind of cool. The special effects did, like when he lobs off all 3 heads. You
Yes, I heard about that one.
boom, 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 and hit the ground. And that had to go. And when the cop gets his head squished, you see the skull crack and a bit of a brain comes up through that.
Ah,
One of those, kinds of things.
yeah.
But here's the thing that's amazing. The last 2 screenings, 8 and 9, the thing that they picked on and kept making me take frames, out of was the back bend with the sheriff that
Oh,
had
yeah.
a drop of blood. It was really, just a special effect. It was like, that's all you really heard. But somehow it got to them, seeing him
Oh,
do this, getting pushed back. And, I was arguing like crazy about them. And they go, it's cumulative. Time we get to that one, it's like, oh, enough already. You got to cut that down. So literally all that's out of there is, one shot of Jason pushing him and another shot of him going back further. And that's it. The rest of it, we just said, oh, no, we cut lot. You don't know who's going to watch it each time. It can always be somebody different. They go, oh, you did the note? Okay, you did the note. All right, I let it go.
yeah.
But yeah, they really, and boy, the film after me, John Buechler's at 6,
Yeah.
I mean, he had some incredible gore and stuff because he's a makeup, effects guy. And but that was just really tore apart.
Yeah. And the worst thing is the footage is lost. That's what they cut out.
Well, mine are just little trims, and
Yeah.
there's some place, God knows where. But I tell you, if you saw it all in there, it's not a big wow. It's
Yeah.
and I found an old VHS tape that we had made a copy of one of the cuts. So some of the stuff is in there, but again, it's sort of like it's not that exciting because it's not really that. Oh my God, I could see why that got cut. That's. But in Vengeance 2, and these things that these guys are doing now, boy,
Yeah.
they're going, no rating board. So you go for,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so if you love that stuff, and the audience I saw it with, I mean, there's still that dude thing, that every gory effect is like, ah! Okay. Right,
Vengeance.
Whatever gets you on.
Hang on, there we go. Right. So, yeah, your 2 TV shows that what's it on? They came from outer space and She-Wolf of London. I don't remember seeing those on UK TV when they came out.
Yeah, was that on BBC One or BBC Two?
Was it? Because they're right up my alley, so I don't know how I would have missed them.
They weren't very good. The 2 leads I thought were terrific. The shows that were shot in England, I thought, we were doing bogmen, we were doing things that were sort of not typical, and it's like I love, looking at the lore from different countries, what the beliefs were. And I've always wanted to do it like a banshee, because there's so many different versions of what the banshee is and what it does. And when they suddenly decided that for cost reasons, they brought it over to the States and then changed the name to Love and Curses. And it just, I don't know, it didn't have what we were going for, because what happened originally was Mick Garris and I were called in to a guy named Ned Tannen at Universal. And he goes, we have all these titles of movies and TV shows and stuff. What do you think would make a great horror series? So of course, Nick and I, without a moment's thought, American Werewolf in London. And it's like, in what way? And we kind of looked at each other, and I don't remember who said it first, because we at a certain point you sort of finish each other's sentences. But the concept was, well, what if it was an American woman and she's going over to do research, and then it's a British professor that is an expert in all this stuff, and they end up, teaming up. So there's this sort of X-Files, the 2 they're not really romantic, but you want to see them get romantic and stuff. And that sort of was like the start of the whole thing. But we went to John Landis and said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Well, just don't make it a piece of shit." And we love this movie. We're going to be very, very loyal to it. Then turns out that Universal didn't own it. Polygram owns it. And so, I go, well, go back to the board, see if there's something else that you like.
Yeah.
And I grabbed onto It Came from Outer Space, and I thought, how about They Came? And what if it was like two, Bill and Ted kind of guys? Because again, television is about imitation. What was successful in the movies? Let's see if we can do a TV version of it. And She-Wolf, was another title. We thought, well, we can do that same idea. And, when she gets bit, she's She-Wolf. So that's kind of where they came from.
Yeah.
But they were done so cheaply. And, the only thing, good I can say is that when you do it with British craftspeople, they do raise the bar. When I was doing The Haunting of Helen Walker over there, Turn of the Screw, just to work with the production people there and the props and the dress. I mean, the things that they grew up, going up the ranks, in production design. So they knew everything, how everything was done, where they could go to get this or that, or we were doing 1850s costuming and it looked gorgeous. So, I mean, it's like night and day. It's just, I have such a affinity for you guys as artists. It makes all the difference, when you really care and it's the details, God's in the detail.
Oh, thank you. When are you next over here? Are you doing any conventions?
Well, yeah, that's obviously there when was that? I guess it was I want to say 7-8 months ago in Manchester for that one.
Oh, yeah.
And it was weird because we were so locked down, this whole country, every place. And even when I went into Heathrow, it was the first time I saw people from all over the world in those masks. And I went, this is like this is the future that you never thought you would see, So often in the past, you'd see some, Asian couple with a mask on, what's their problem? And this thing, and everybody's afraid of getting close and stuff. Then we get to Manchester, and they basically had sort of dropped the whole mask and everything. So you walk in and into this thing that was like an airplane hangar, huge, booming music, and all these vendors and stuff, and nobody had a mask. I mean, it was like, after we left, then everything switched again, another hit, and I got changed. And 2 weeks later, I go to Dusseldorf in Germany, and it was like, Nazi occupied Germany, where's your mask? No, stick. And we were behind glass, and we had people that walked with us if we went places so that no one would touch each other. I mean, it was so strange. And tape, you could only go to this area, not that area. And I went, God, this is like North Korea, and I went to Korea with a bunch of film students to make a film there, and get on the border, and you feel that vibe of those, North Korean soldiers. And it's like, do not make a face, don't do anything to piss these guys off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just had that really, really strong, this is the rule, we're not going to break it, and we're going to make sure, you don't break it either. But yeah, I'm so glad all that stuff looks like, hopefully it's gone away finally. It seems like things are finally loosening up.
Yeah. Yeah, so far so good. Yeah. Right. Well, thank you. I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for joining me.
Okay. Thank you guys. All you guys, really appreciate all the wonderful things you've said. And if you're filmmakers yourself, keep going. Don't give up the dream, however long it takes. And love this stuff. Keep telling people we want more, because you got to push artists to make things better, as they go along. Not more explosions and things like some of the franchise films do, but the characters and things you care about.
Yeah. Great.
All right.
So thank you, and thank you for all your films and TV shows. They all get the love.
And me and my girlfriend are off to see Halloween Kills, or no, I'm sorry, Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends, yeah. I caught it. Oh,
see what happened. What
hope you enjoy it.
The last one. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Everyone's saying thanks and bye. All right, then. You take care. I will end this now. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night. Bye.